very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
You're in violation of secure communication procedures, Commodore.
So we just went ahead and fixed the glitch.
There is no America. There is no democracy.
Our fifth objective, a new world order.
There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West.
Right-wing conspiracy.
What do you call it when the assassins accuse the assassin?
A new world order.
Thank you for plugging in to the Stones Unturned podcast.
Well, just a second there, Professor. We fixed the glitch.
I'm your host, Professor Thomas Henry Horan.
He reads everything.
Hello there, you lucky devils. You better bet your bippies he reads everything. So, it's Thursday, is that right? It's almost Christmas. I'm throwing a bunch of freebie episodes at you. Hi, Tony. But if you get, I know it's almost Christmas, but when you can, get plugged in. Click that join button. If you don't see the join button, you're on an iPhone. If you're on an iPhone, look at the description of this video. There is a link to watch another video about how to find the join button on an iPhone. It's not that easy, but once you join, then you're good to go. We'll be coming right back to Zodiac, right back to, I'm recording an interview next week with somebody. Who am I? It's an audio podcast. That'll be a nice change. I won't have to wear clothes. Trump is Times Person of the Year. Outstanding. We'll come back to the news in just a minute. Who is this guy? The Art, The Secret History of Psy-War, Conspiratainment, and the Shattering of Reality, Book 1, in addition to being the host of The Farm podcast. What the hell is The Farm podcast? The two things don't look... I always say yes. I'll be on anything, especially if I can do it from home, I'll do it. High quality, in-depth weekly shows in the long form. Culture, parapolitics, and high weirdness. Oh, I'll fit right in. Okay. Looking forward to it. I'm going to record next week. I don't know when it will air. Black Legion, Harry Bennett. Oh, well, there you go. Okay, that sounds great. I'll if you want to interview me, if you want me to be on your podcast, I'll be there. I don't necessarily do like 20 episodes of the same show. Hi, Anthony. But I'm hoping Aaron Rodgers retires and starts a podcast. I'd be the perfect guest, don't you think? I think Aaron would love to hear from me. I would love to be on his show. While people are getting logged in here, we'll talk about the news briefly. What's this one? YouTuber Legal Eagle sues the FBI and the Department of Justice for Trump investigation records. Well, let's all hope he gets them. Nothing good happens behind closed doors. Name one good thing that happened in secret. Just one. Just one good thing that happened in secret. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see that. We're on radio. There we go. CNN.com, Communist News Network. The company news network. No undercover agents were at the January 6th Capitol riot, Watchdog reports. What watchdog? Justice Department watchdog. Oh, the Department of Justice Inspector General said that while no undercover agents were at the rally, 26 confidential human sources paid FBI informants. There's a headline, no undercover FBI agents. Then in the very first sentence, the truth comes out because they know that none of you people bother to read the articles. They know that you people only read the headlines. 26 paid informants. Politicon.com. FBI didn't deploy undercover agents on January 6th, watchdog report finds, undercutting conspiracy theories. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. So the FBI investigated themselves and gave themselves a clean bill of health. Boy, I was worried there for a minute that we couldn't trust the FBI. 26 were people who had served as informants for the FBI. Are not government, they're not spooks. Remember, we've been over this. A spook, as I understood it, a spook is an actual FBI or CIA employee who pretends not to be. They are covert. They might pretend to be a drug dealer. They might be a drug dealer. They might, their role is they're a banker, a drug dealer, a stripper, but they are actually on their official, their GS-10s or something, and they're getting a pension or whatever. Okay, that's a spook. These people are just scumbags. They are paid informants. They are paid sources. They are assets. They are sources. They are operators. If they're like somebody like Barry Seal would be, he was not a spook. He was not an employee. He was not a government civil servant. He was an operator. He was a licensed international arms dealer, and he was a wheeler dealer. My parents were World War II generation people. I use old-fashioned slang. A wheeler dealer, okay, an operator. Now, and technically, we do talk about an operator, talking about a government employee who operates scumbags, who operates free agents. Okay, agent is a legal term. These people were not, of course not. Neither was Charles Manson. Neither was Charles Lindbergh. Okay, they had no spooks there, but they had 26 paid. Enrique Tarrio, for example, founder and leader of the Proud Boys, and his 4 closest lieutenants, all 5 of them. When I say paid, I don't mean they're getting like jury duty money, $15 a day. I mean they're getting $5,000 a day. They're mercenaries. They're like Blackwater. Blackwater is not an official government agency. But they're not just working for tips either. Right? It all depends on how you word the headline. Here's the NewYorkPost.com. FBI had 26 informant at Capitol 6 riots, and most were deeply involved. Guess what? They were deeply involved, and that includes Enrique Tarrio and his 4 top lieutenants, all 5 of them. Very highly paid. Who's another example? Philip Arthur Thompson. Armin Pelisetti. San Francisco Police Department, but working with CIA, working with Drug Enforcement Administration. You forget the FBI, forget the CIA. It was the DEA, and we're going to come around to that in 2025. But that's a spook. That's a spook. Those are going to be the official terms on the Stones Unturned podcast, whether you like it or not. Somebody who's openly, if somebody comes up to you and flashes a CIA ID card and it's legitimate, that's not a spook. They're working overtly. That's not a spook. A spook is somebody who is a salaried employee of the agency, but they're pretending not to be. That's covert. That's a spook. Whether it's military or whatever, that's a spook. A retired agent who is now, that's still not, I know if they're spooky, but that's not technically a spook. Are you with me? The hair splitting. And look, CNN, Politicon. Oh, they weren't FBI undercover agents, because then they'd have to follow laws. Back to the New York Post, my favorite newspaper. FBI informant pleads guilty to lying about $10 million bribery payments to Joe and Hunter Biden. Now, this proves once and for all, there's nothing funny going on. When it makes Biden look good and Trump look bad. They admit, oh yeah, we paid this guy a lot of money and then he lied. How is that defending what you did? I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you can't believe a junkie, a whore, or a paid informant, who the hell can you believe? Whom can you believe? In whom can you place your faith? If you can't believe junkies, whores, lawyers, and FBI informants, well, then who the hell can you believe? Well, then there's the popcorn spooks, who are the people who are paid to go around telling everybody, hey, everybody, I'm a spook. And then they act like the James Bond. They act like, that's their job, is to perform the role of the movie stereotype of a spook. That's a popcorn spook. Bob Nichols is the quintessential popcorn spook. The event was riddled with... Of course. You mean they were all derelict in their duty and none of them were there? None of them were there? Well, we had informants and... they'll get back to us someday. There were informants telling us what was going on, but we were in Vegas. Ask the whores. Ask the whores in Vegas. They'll tell you where we were. Yeah, none of them were there. So you were derelict in your duty, like the Secret Service in Butler, Pennsylvania, right? Next, they're going to tell us that the Secret Service had no special agents at Butler, Pennsylvania, right? Now, apropos of this, and I am a professor, apropos of this, well, first let me ask you this. No, I'll come back to this. I assume that by now you've made it pretty much through Moby Dick, the unexpurgated version, not the version you read in high school. It's not that I'm forcing you to read all about the gay stuff that's in, and there's a gay wedding in Moby Dick. Well, they probably put all that back in the new high school editions, but they cut out a lot of the other stuff to make it shorter because it's a whale of a book. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic book. There are 2 reasons you want to read Moby Dick. Well, 3 reasons. 1, it is a great story. Number 2, on my list of 4, it's very cinematic. The descriptions of what's going on. He's a great writer, and he kind of invented a lot of new stuff in writing novels. But it's also there's a lot of esoterica in it. I'll come back to that in a second. The third thing is, this is somebody who had worked for whaling companies as a sailor. I think he'd been a cabin boy. I think Herman Melville had been a cabin boy, and I know he was a bureaucrat. He was a customs inspector. Like, he worked his way up and this is the birth of the modern corporate, and this is a global corporation. These whaling concerns, this is the birth of the modern corporation. European countries and then England under the Tudors, it's very important. It's very important. Henry VII, Henry Tudor, Henry VIII, Elizabeth, these are very important people. There's a semi-modern idea of the company. A company is like a partnership, but legally is treated as one person. So you have a designated officer who can sign contracts on behalf of the company, not the partnership. This is a new legal entity. They put their investment capital in. They form, it acts as one person legally in some ways, called a company, like the East India Company, the Dutch East India Company, the Massachusetts Bay Company, right? The Manhattan Company. But in the old system, these charters were granted by the king like a birth certificate. It was treated a lot like a birth certificate. You could not transfer your shares in the company without the express written permission of the crown. In America, we have this revolution. So people are forming companies there's no real regulation, and there's certainly no government that has the power, the authority to regulate these things. So it's evolving into the modern corporation, which is also still distinct from a partnership, but it's the next step in the evolution of a company, and it's the birth of the company being called, like in America, these whaling ships sailing all the way around the world. They're also carrying spices, they're carrying silks, and they are carrying opium. And they make so much money, they start the first banks. Harriman, Brown Brothers, the Folgers, the Stanfords, they start the first banks with all this money. But in Moby Dick, it's like a mutual benefit society, because they have contracts with these whalers, the crew of the ship. If you get killed in action, your widow, your orphans, they get a share of the money that ship made. And then, like, after so many voyages, you get a share in the company. And so they're paying dividends, and more the profits are going to pay the widows and orphans, literally. This is important because Ahab, who is an exotic person, who's worked his way up from harpooner or whatever in the company, because the company promotes on merit. These are Puritans, but on board the ship and in the village of Nantucket, business is business and religion is private business. Business is business. They will hire Queequeg without batting an eye. Your religion is your business. If you do a good job, and you are paid according to how valuable your work is. The harpooner, Queequeg, is the second highest paid person on the ship behind the captain, who knows what he's doing. He got that job because he knows what he's doing. There's none of this crap about the brother-in-law is the captain of the ship. They don't do that. It's a fascinating book, and he writes other, like the long short story Bartleby the Scrivener, about the cog in the machine, the white-collar cog in the white-collar machine of this unnamed company. These books are fascinating. They're also fascinating because they're very esoteric. He and Nathaniel Hawthorne had a bromance going on when they were younger, and they were Freemasons. And they're part of this movement to complete the establishment of a Masonic republic in America. This is a political party and a political movement. But then you have the anti-Masonic backlash, and there's an anti-Masonic party. They drive the Mormons out of New York, for example. So Hawthorne is like Ixnay on the Asenrime from now on, and Ixnay on the A-gay from now on. He got married, had a family, but Melville just still had to think. He writes some love letters for the rest of his life, and he's also writing letters talking about, are we still going to try to establish this Masonic Republic? But Hawthorne really got cold feet about all those things. But if you read another fantastic novel, it's called The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. There's always something a little supernatural going on in all of their books and stories, but they're not overt ghost stories necessarily like Edgar Allan Poe. They're American Gothic, but they're not Southern Gothic. They're not overtly ghostly. But first of all, The Scarlet Letter is a fantastic novel. It's one of the top 10 novels ever written. Secondly, it's a novelization of The Chemical Marriage of Kristen Rosicross. It's basically the chemical marriage of Hester Prynne. And she has this angelic love child living in this Puritan community, because Hawthorne and Melville both had ancestors who came over on the Mayflower and other. Mayflower was Pilgrims. Pilgrims are separate from Puritans, but they had ancestors. Hawthorne had a great-grandfather, whoever was one of the judges at the Salem witch trials and stuff, okay? They have family history, and they have the family diaries, and they're looking back on all this stuff. They're living in a more modern world. The corporate world. The corporate world is partly a response to this stuff. So read those books. Now, tonight I'm going to give you new homework, all right? Hey, Nixon. New Bedford, but whaling made a certain amount of money, Nixon, but you got to understand from day one, they're sailing all the way around the world. They follow The whales circumnavigate the world. The sperm whales in particular, they circumnavigate the world, and the whaling ships follow them. All the way around the world. It takes 2-3 years before they come back. And they split the profits a certain way, and then they pay so much to the company. Now, in Moby Dick, the character of Starbuck, he's the company man. He's a corporate manager. He's a sailor, he's a whaler, but he's a company man in that sense. We talk about the company man. He's supposed to be putting the brakes on Ahab, okay? And all through the novel, he acts like the corporate man, the corporate manager. These books are fascinating, and they're very well written. And it's a fantastic story. Yes, there's a gay wedding, blah, 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 blah. Okay, the next book you need to read, do not Google the author's name. Do not worry your pretty little heads about who wrote this book, who he was. We'll talk about that when the time comes. You need to read this book. This is the Bible and textbook of the Stones Unturned podcast, you could say. The Ur text. This is the Origin of Species. This is the book, the Genesis, okay? The Power Elite by Charles Wright Mills, a sociologist named Charles Wright Mills. Don't Google that name. Just get the book. In fact, I forgot the link. Let me get the link up for you. You can download this from the Internet Archive and maybe some other places. Read this book. I will talk about this book in just one second. This is it right here. Published in 1959. Charles Wright Mills. I'll tell you about him. Just read the book. Just read the fucking book. Just read the book. Just read the book. Just read it. It's only 400 and some odd pages. Read this book. I'll describe it to you right now. Okay? According to Mills, the eponymous power elite are those that occupy the dominant positions in the three-pillar institutions, state security, economic, and political, of a dominant country. Like now, after World War II, it's the United States. Before that, it was the British Empire. Their decisions or lack of decisions have enormous consequences not only for Americans, but the underlying populations of the world. The guy's not a crazy conspiracy theorist. Nor am I. Mills posits that the institutions that they head are a triumvirate of groups that have inherited or succeeded weaker predecessors. For example, 200 or 300 giant corporations which have replaced the traditional agrarian and craft economy. A strong federal political order that now enters each and every cranny of the social structure. 3, the military establishment. Now an entity with all the grim and clumsy efficiency of a sprawling bureaucratic domain. Okay? Importantly, and as distinct from modern American conspiracy theory, Mills explains that the elite themselves may not be aware of their status as an elite, noting that often they are uncertain about their roles, and, without conscious effort, they absorb the aspiration to be the ones who decide. Read this book. Read this book, and then argue with me about the 26 known, admitted paid informants at January 6. Mills sees them as a quasi-hereditary caste. Like the Bushes, are you with me? Now the Clintons, okay? Read this book, The Power Elite, Charles Wright Mills, Ph.D. That's all you need to know. Don't worry your pretty little heads about him just yet. Just read the fucking book. Do yourselves and myself a favor. Read this book when you have time. Get it on audiobook. when you've read that book, then you need to read this book, Behemoth by Franz Neumann, a German sociologist who defected to the West during World War II. I'll see if I can find it. Behemoth. Franz Neumann. PDF. I probably downloaded my limit from... There it is. Yeah, I'll get you this link right now. Oh, this is an excerpt? I don't want an excerpt. I want the book. Damn you. Damn you, Columbia University. There is an EPUB version. I will take that. He was there. There it is. Between the Structure and Practice of National Socialism. Download PDF. Okay, let me get you this link. Well, I'll get you the link and you can decide how you want to download it. Although Nazi Germany appeared to be an authoritarian and strong state, Neumann did not compare it with the monster Leviathan like Hobbes did. Instead, he equated it with Behemoth, which to Hobbes had represented a state of lawlessness. Actually, it should be that. That to Hobbes had represented a state of lawlessness in society, the state of nature. In a complex analysis, Neumann tried to show that behind the authoritarian and autocratic facade of the Nazi regime, very few people were ever actually arrested by the Gestapo, and very few people ever encountered a Gestapo agent. But they created this powerful illusion of a Gestapo that was everywhere and watching everybody all the time. In the Soviet Union, 50% of the population were government informants. But in Nazi Germany, they created this powerful illusion of being watched all the time that was just as effective. Behind the facade, there was ultimately nothing but unbridled terror, egotism, and arbitrariness on the part of certain social groups. Let me read that again. Ultimately, there was nothing in Nazi Germany, behind the Nazi regime, there was nothing but unbridled terror, egotism, and arbitrariness on the part of certain social groups. An example in Neumann's book is the confiscation of Jewish property, which had mostly served the interests of large capitalist corporations such as ThyssenKrupp and Mannesmann. Mannesmann. You never heard of Mannesmann, but I've talked about them on this podcast and you didn't know it. Mannesmann was, and for a very long time, the world's largest producer of pipes and tubes for industry. Wales, Italy, South America, Asia, South Africa. The company became the worldwide leading manufacturer of steel tube and pipe, and their expansion was financed at least 50% financed on the wealth confiscated from the Jews during the Holocaust. Remember, forget Professor for 1 second. Take it from Thomas Henry Horan, insurance fraud investigator. The most horrifying crimes are committed for money. The most horrifying crimes are committed for money. The Holocaust was mostly about the money. There was this facade of an excuse. It's all about Jews. There's no Jewish race. It's religion, but whatever. It's not about the Jews. It's about their money. The Holocaust was about the money. Don't forget that. So the Power Elite is the first, then read Behemoth by Franz Neumann. All right? Have I successfully downloaded this book? That's the EPUB. Okay, let me download the PDF. Okay. Get you this link. Don't take my word for any of this stuff. So back to Nixon's point. New Bedford, Nantucket, they're sailing all around the world. Well, whale oil is a big bulky cargo. They're selling a lot of the whale oil to the British textile mills in places like India. Right? They're already exporting jobs from England. Like before the American Civil War, 90 some odd % of all that American cotton in the South, which it's not as soft as Indian or Egyptian cotton, but it's stronger. On the other hand, it's got those seeds with the little barbs on them, and you got to pick the seeds out of them. That's why you need a cotton gin. But it's stronger. And therefore, Egyptian cotton and Indian cotton is so soft it's almost like silk, but it doesn't hold up under the strain of machine weaving. American cotton did. So 95%, 95 out of every 100 pounds of American cotton went to one place. It went to first it went to Liverpool, and then it went by railroad. The first railroad was built from Liverpool to Manchester, where first they were water-powered looms and then steam-powered looms were developed in Manchester. The Industrial Revolution really kicks off in Manchester, and then they dug their own canal. The big ditch was dug because Liverpool is skimming all the profits from this cotton. And then when they export, so Americans were selling cotton to Manchester, England, and buying cotton cloth coming back. And they built the first railroad, and then they dug a canal. This was an incredible project that they did. Well, the Irish laborers did. From Manchester to a port, like there's like a little chain link fence between this port and Liverpool to this very day. Okay? They start exporting jobs. They start building mills in India. So the Americans are selling whale oil in England. They're selling it in Liverpool. They're selling it in India. And then they're buying, pound for pound. Opium is worth, 3 times its weight in gold or something? And then they're bringing that to America when it was perfectly legal. Or they're selling it all over on the way back. Are you with me? So, and they make so much money from this, they start the first banks. And they've already started the modern corporation where anybody can invest. You can buy shares. You can trade shares. The New York Stock Exchange was started when it was still a British colony, and it was illegal to transfer shares in companies. But under the American system, that all becomes legal. And Wall Street, which used to be, it was whorehouses, coffee shops, and the stock market. The stock market met in the back room of this coffee shop on Wall Street on rainy days. Otherwise, they met under this big chestnut tree on Wall Street. And if it was raining, they would go to this coffee shop. And that's where the American Revolution started, was in this coffee shop. What was the name of that coffee shop? There's probably more than one. It was whorehouses, coffee shops. Coffee was a drug. Don't forget that. A foreign drug. And the stock market. Irish Indentured Service, that's right. Manchester, Liverpool is 35 miles. The first steam-powered railroad, well, it was horse-powered at first, and then they built a canal. So that's Nantucket. Read Moby Dick and read some of those. Read Bartleby the Scrivener. He describes things in great detail. So historians are reading his stuff because he is describing the second generation of American corporate interests and how it's building. You can kind of you see how people work. Bartleby the Scrivener is a brilliant story about the passive-aggressive white-collar pencil pusher. He's a pencil pusher in this company that will end up taking over the world. It will become the company. All right, those are the books you need to read. Now, back to my favorite subject, Who's this guy? Does anybody know off the top of their head who this guy is? This is, I believe, outside the New Orleans headquarters of Fair Play for Cuba Committee. I know what you're thinking. You've been told that the Fair Play for Cuba Committee was nothing. No, it was not nothing. We're going to talk about it when the time comes. Does anybody know who the guy that the red arrow's pointing to? Let me zoom in on it for you. John Huston's Moby Dick is good. Yeah. That's Ted Cruz's dad? Maybe it is. Does anybody know who that is? If you can name anybody in this picture, I'd appreciate it. The guy circled in blue is, of course, our boy, Lee Harvey Oswald. This was taken I got to fix the caption on this slide. Sorry. This was taken in 1963, obviously. Look at that tie. Look how stylish he is. That's Bartleby the Scrivener. Who's the other guy? Does anybody know? I found this picture, but there's no caption to explain what the red arrow means or who it's pointing to or why. One of the guys is Charles Hall Steele. I don't think Ed Butler's in this picture, but there's video of him interviewing Oswald. Or somebody's interviewing him, and Ed Butler was also one of them. Is that him? Charles Hall Steele? Got the thick curly hair. He's got the great big ears. Is that him? Maybe that's him. You can't see any of this. Here. Is that him? Hold on. Is that him? That looks like it might be him. In search of the third man. Trump accused Rafael Cruz, father of Ted Cruz, of consorting with Oswald before November 63. You know, Cruz's father was with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to Oswald's being, shot. Well, Oswald was shot. News cameraman Johan Rush, working with colleagues at WDSU-TV. Oswald made a string of local radio and TV appearances the previous August. That must be the one that's on YouTube. Rush had filmed Oswald in front of the International Trade Mart on 16 August 1963. See, there's arrows. Here's another picture where they got the arrows, but there's no indication of who anybody is. Garner Exhibit Number 1, the Mary Farrell Foundation. Top secret. From one doctor to another. Yeah, you got to be really careful reading that kind of crap. We'll get into that when the time comes. Does anybody know who these people are? That's not Clay Shaw, is it? Well, but Ed Butler also interviewed him for the local radio, but there's no recording of that. The recording we can hear, I think, is William Stuckey, right? Is that the one? Chauncey Holt claimed to be the guy in sunglasses? This guy? Chauncey Holt? Well, if you can't believe anything a paid FBI informant tells you, what the hell can you believe? You've seen almost enough. You've seen almost enough for us to get ready to talk about Lee Harvey. Wouldn't it be hilarious if that was Ted Cruz's dad? Here's another picture of the same scene. Maybe nobody knows for sure who these people are. You can see that picture, right? Who are these guys? See, there's that guy again. Try to zoom in on that. Give you a better look there. The guy in the X is Oswald, of course. Who's this guy? You see my cursor? Yeah, I think you just have to go with crap. Okay. Who's that guy? That guy looks like a bystander. Looks like he's about ready to punch somebody. Holt also, so he claimed, the old tramp in the hat. But I thought that was... Three Tramps. We go and talk about it now. Three Tramps, Dealey Plaza. Because one of those, it does look, these three guys do look like they are, the short guy in the hat looks exactly like Everett Howard Hunt. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't think that the guy in the sunglasses is in this picture. I don't think so. But see, Holt could be one of those disinfoprops that you keep hearing about on this podcast. But the middle guy and the little short guy, if that's not Everett Howard Hunt, I'll eat his hat. This guy, who's that guy? These two of them really do look like the CIA guys, right? Who's the guy on the left here? Looking at it, it's the left. To the guys in the picture, it's to their right. Now, the guy in the front, Charles Harrelson. Because I got that picture of the guy who looks exactly like Anthony Poshepny, but he's not with the Three Tramps. Harrelson's the guy in the back. Who's the guy in the front? Because that guy looks exactly like Everett Howard Hunt. Either David Christ or Charles Rogers. Well, we got to make up our minds. We need to know who these guys are. But I think the fact that four people, I think that says a lot, don't you? I think that Charles Rogers, Dealey Plaza. Yeah, photograph would help. Texas A&M, Houston Nuclear Physics. Pilot in the United States Navy, a naval aviator. Also served Office of Naval Intelligence. You guys know nothing about O&I. Worked as a seismologist for Shell Oil. Well, I'll be darned. I need to save that tab because Rogers joined the Civil Air Patrol. I don't care if he was at Dealey Plaza or not. You guys have been watching this podcast for a while. Are bells ringing? Yeah, I think that the tramp with the hat, that is Everett Howard Hunt. Charles Harrelson. American contract killer and organized crime figure. Assassinated federal judge John H. Wood Jr. Now, I don't know if that's him in the picture, though. There's another list of these guys that they're all three spooks. They're all three covert CIA agents, right? But Charles Rogers is certainly interesting. Guys, in these photos, the second set of tramps? 2 sets of tramps? Okay. I think the guy in the hat is Everett Howard Hunt. Yeah, there's this picture, right? See, there he is again. That's Everett Howard Hunt. Why is he in both of these pictures? That guy, this guy right here, that's Everett Howard Hunt. Now, this guy might be Charles Rogers. Carswell, does that ring a bell? We'll have to come back to this, obviously. Oh, they're talking about Woody Harrelson's dad. Yeah, don't worry too much about that just yet. Here's another picture of these guys. Yeah, that's Hunt. How come nobody knows their real names? Whatever happened to these guys? Yeah, I'm thinking 2 of those guys are spooks. Daniel Carswell, Fred Lee Chrisman. From Tacoma, Washington. Yeah, that's not, no. This guy, Tramp C, that's not Chrisman, that's Everett Howard Hunt, I'm telling you. Yeah, see, there's a lot of disinfo out there. Some of it's accidental. But Dan Carswell could be the guy in front. And Anthony Pashepny, there's a guy, that photograph looks exactly like Anthony Pashepny. Are there no other photographs of Dan Carswell? Yeah, see, this is Everett Howard Hunt. That's Hunt. That's Everett Howard Hunt, period. You'd be surprised how old Hunt was, and how long he lived, and how long he was active. That is Everett Howard Hunt. And the other 2 guys, they do look like CIA guys. Everett Howard Hunt was the Disinfoprop extraordinaire. Lois Gibson, facial comparisons? I haven't looked at some of this stuff in years, so I'm a little rusty. The world's most successful sketch artist. Oh, she is good. Wow, she is. Have you seen this? This guy turned himself in. Okay. Lois Gibson. What am I Googling? Dallas Tramps. Do you have a link? Louis Gibson thinks that Holt is the oldest tramp. I'm pretty darn sure. But see, she wouldn't necessarily know who the other suspects were. I'm telling you, that's Everett Howard Hunt, because he was the premier disinfoprop of the 20th century of any company, any country. This looks interesting. Barry Seal? I don't know if that's Barry Seal. The man with the glasses is Portagas. Okay, whatever. Yeah, see, everybody's trying to claim it's everybody but Everett Howard Hunt. That was Everett Howard Hunt. I'm telling you, it's Everett Howard Hunt. E. Howard Hunt. I'm telling you. So you got to watch out, because the big disinfo props is always to cover up something that's blatantly obvious and right out in the open. But we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this real soon. But the short answer is nobody knows who this guy is or why there's a red arrow pointing to him. Okay, because the website I got this picture from, there's no explanation. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. My supper's ready. Your supper's ready. Thanks for hanging out. This is Thursday. If I don't have a Tylenol episode ready tomorrow, I'll have it real soon. For those of you who've been signing up for the members only, thank you very much. I will keep uploading. If I don't do a live stream tomorrow for the members, I will do. If I don't do a live stream tomorrow, I will upload another Lindbergh episode. You can finish watching those. There's some other classic episodes that will be uploaded to the members only YouTube. I just got to make sure there's nothing on there to get me kicked off of YouTube. Oh, and the podcast button is working. I don't know how you find podcasts, but this is now available as a podcast on YouTube. I think it's a special kind of playlist. I'll get more information about that. So the free episodes will be on the podcast, because I'm trying to get the word out there. So thank you all very much for hanging out. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Nixon. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Guth. Thank you, Charles. There's a follow-up. So check the comments to that episode where somebody said something about Drew had done an episode on Zodiac, had mind-blowing stuff. I'm going to watch that tonight when I'm eating supper. Watch that documentary if you get a chance. It's on YouTube, free with ads, or you can pay the premium, free with ads. It's check last night's. Watch the last episode. Watch this episode on the Monsters of Florence. Let me get the link again so you guys can see it. History. Oh, you know what? This is another good one.
Of what these.
This is interesting. Now, this guy, he's got a little bit of a bias. He loves the King James translation of the Bible, but this is a really good documentary about from a pro. He's all in favor of it, but it's fabulous. He's read the diaries of the translators and the people involved in producing this. This is a really good documentary about the King James Bible. and it's on YouTube, either free or you can pay the premium. He had me, the very first paragraph, he's introducing this documentary, and he says that 17th century England in the 1600s, was a land of war, chaos, and bureaucracy. I'm like, I gotta watch this. It's good. It's good. He does a good job. He loves the book. And, he explains why he loves the book, and that's fine. But it's called When God Spoke English. This is it right here. A series called Unsolved Serial Murders, The Monsters of Florence. Watch this. This is a twisted story. There's police corruption. They don't name this. I think it was produced in Italy, so they don't use the name Propaganda Dewey, but they are talking about Propaganda Dewey. They're talking about Propaganda Dewey being involved in these murders. This is really good. They crammed it all in less than 2 hours. I had to pause and rewind because it's so packed with details. And the details about these crimes, evidence, it sounds like half of them did Zodiac and half of them did West Memphis 3. Watch this documentary about the Monsters of Florence. And then do more research. The Wikipedia article. Watch the Monsters of Florence. This was murders that started in 1968 and continued until 1995. Okay, I think that's all the comments I need to catch up on. Anything else on Fakebook I need to catch up on? Remember, if you can't believe a junkie, a whore, a lawyer, or an FBI informant, who the hell can you believe? Oh, here's another headline. No one should have to be fighting cancer and insurance at the same time. No, it's not insurance, it's Obamacare. It's Obamacare. I take it from an old veteran of the insurance industry and focused on health insurance for a big part of my insurance career. Don't let Obama bullshit you. He caved in to every single thing the insurance industry demanded, and this is the direct result. He caved on he gave them everything they demanded. Everything. It's not insurance, it's Obamacare. Don't kid yourselves, it is Obamacare. Plain and simple. I think that's it. Is that it? If you ever wondered why I will never fly in another airplane, what's this? Of course, these people don't have their seatbelts on, but it's turbulence. It's turbulence. Is that it? I'm not going to show you the spider seeing its reflection for the first time. It's a little too creepy. It's cute and creepy at the same time. Like Japanese babies. So for now, I wish you a good night. May God bless. Please take care of yourselves and each other. And please, for Peter's sake, will you please neuter your cannibals? You better bet your bippies he reads everything. Oh! Hold on. I figured out how one thing works and forgot to do the other thing. Let me try this again. I'm Professor Thomas Henry Horan, asking you to please stay plugged in to the Stones Unturned podcast.
He reads everything.
Damn it. He reads everything, damn it. All right, I'll see you real soon.